I just don't understand why my son wants to sterilize himself and there's nothing I can do about it.
What do you mean there's nothing you can do? He's only 10, and you're his mother.
Prop 3 passed and gave every individual the right to effectuate decisions about sterilization. His teacher told him that if he wants to transition, he can do this. There's nothing I can do. If he decides to go through with it, it's his choice.
I didn't know.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everyone doing? It's Adam and Amber from Rescue Michigan joining us tonight for our weekly live stream. That was one clip from that video we played last week. I got a hold of the church. We got permission to make little short versions of the clips. And man, I tell you what, there's been a huge left-wing freak out on Twitter this week about Prop 3. I think the momentum is suddenly surging in our direction. I'll show you guys what I mean. But first off, say hello in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. How are you doing, Amber?
I'm okay.
Right. You sound exhausted. I definitely feel a little bit tired at the moment, but this week feels like it's been a turning point. I think it was just like yesterday, or maybe the day before, seeing some of these numbers coming in and the Democrats panicking, that I feel like we're not just going to just survive this election. We might actually have a real sweep. And boy, it feels like a big relief. Feels like a big relief to me. Hello, everybody on Facebook. I see you guys there. Michelle, two Michelles, Anthony and Barry. Feel free, if you're watching on Rumble, say hello. We are keeping an eye on the Rumble stream. We're also on YouTube temporarily. It's our new practice now to kind of turn off the YouTube midstream, since they give us nothing but trouble, especially when we're talking about elections, and we will be talking about some election stuff tonight. There's been a big court victory for us against the evil Jocelyn Benson, so we'll talk about that for a bit. Hey, Patty says hello in the chat as well. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I feel like with this good news, we might even be able to talk about some things like after the election. So, because people have been asking me about that too, like what's going to be the next thing? And there will be some next things for sure. There's conventions coming up, so that will be an opportunity for you to get involved in your GOP and possibly get on your county or even district or state executive committees. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit. Hello, Rosemary. And someone just called Facebook user. That's a very inventive username you got there. But anyway, real quick though, I'll play a couple of clips from that Prop 3 video. We put them all up on our Rumble channel, and I don't know if I think I posted at least one of them to our Facebook page. I don't know if I posted the others, but definitely worth sharing those around. That original video, we just thought, I mean, it was absolutely great, but it was a tad long. Barry is asking Amber when.
I see. I should read those. Barry, it says, when is Oakland convention in November? I think it's November 17th, but we're trying to lock down a place right now. So put November 17th on your calendar.
Wow, so you guys are actually following the law then, are you?
For now.
Yeah, our county apparently is not doing that. And this has been some controversy. I'll pull this up in the election law. Because there's actually supposed to be, let's see here. Let me find it. While I'm digging through the law, I don't want to have too much dead air, but it's anyway.
No, it's something to the effect of that you have to have it like 2 weeks after the election.
Yeah, it's like within 20 days or something. Yeah. So our county's naturally scheduling it for a month after.
No, that's beautiful.
Some counties say 2 months after, which seems kind of bizarre, but yeah, that's what apparently they've decided they're going to do. So anyway, all right, I'm going to play a couple of those other clips real quick just so you guys can see them, and definitely share these around on.
Help me understand what's going on with you. You're just not yourself lately. Mom, 2 weeks ago I had an abortion.
What?
How? How is that possible? You're only 14. Your doctor didn't even tell me. My teacher said they wouldn't have to anymore since Prop 3 passed. I didn't know.
I should probably not talk as I'm clicking play on the video because it doesn't work that way. But yeah, let me find. I did see this. Yeah, here we go. This is from. This is a tweet from Mallory McMorrow, who's one of the more rancid Democrat state senators we have, and this is what she posted the other day. Michiganders are now seeing this dystopian anti-proposal 3 ad every time they turn on the TV. Horrified. Me too. It's a new low. And here's the video here. I'll play the clip.
You can close it.
Here we go.
This drug blocks a child from going through puberty. It's the first step in gender change therapy. Clinics prescribe this drug in Michigan. If Proposal 3 passes, minors as young as 10 or 11 will be able to receive this prescription without the consent of their parents, or their parents even knowing. They call it reproductive freedom. We call it extreme. Proposal 3 opens a Pandora's box. Only you can close it. Vote no on Proposal 3. This drug.
So
That was a good one.
yeah, that was a nice ad. I think that was. I think the organization paying for that is like it's like Right to Life of Michigan, or it's their committee for the ballot proposal.
Right.
But hard hitting, really effective ads. And
Well, what I love is it's not about abortion, because this whole thing is not about abortion. It's about parental control. I mean, my church, which is kind of, it's not liberal, but it's not political at all, ran a whole like beginning of a ad today for it, and it was really, really great, because I was really glad that the churches are stepping up. But they made it about abortion, and I'm like, this is not about abortion.
yeah, and we've been beating this drum for months and months now that there's a lot of voters out there who are pro-abort, who are not going to be persuaded by any abortion-related argument, but that doesn't mean they're not going to have issues with allowing children, teenagers, to sexually mutilate themselves and do so even over their parents' objections or without them even knowing about it. So that's a lot of more no votes they can pull by making a big point about that. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, we were ahead of the curve on that one, I'd say. But with all the talk about Prop 3, I want to talk a little bit about Prop 1 tonight, because I was talking to just someone in town about this, and they've been asking me about Prop 2, and they're like, you know about the proposals? I'm like, yeah, I know about all the proposals. It's like, what do you think about Prop 1? I was like, well, I think it's terrible. It's going to give politicians double their terms. And they're like, what? I thought this shortens politicians' terms. And it's like, well, here's what this is really all about. Most politicians in Lansing don't get to serve 14 years because there's not that many seats in the Senate. There's so many more House seats.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys are going to suddenly get an extra 3 full terms of office. So like in Lansing, we may have Matt Hall for the next Speaker of the House. And if that doesn't send shivers down your spine, how about him being Speaker of the House for another 8 years? Imagine that. I mean, that would be awful. And that's what this is really all about, is they hate having to fight with one another for the Senate seat, or a lot of times if the Senate's, if the senators still got years left in the term, they can't run for that Senate seat. Now they don't have to.
Well, the point is that they do a really great job at advertising stuff, and that's why I'm finding it. And if you think I'm sad today, it's because as much as the tide has turned, it's just seeing the whole big game as one big game, and it's not. Nothing has turned. But anyway, so it's like they had this messaging, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I mean, the struggle is eternal. That's just the nature of.
But it's eternal, and it's been over and over and over again. So constantly, we're behind the 8 ball for something that's existed for over 200 years. How is that possible? Like, this is my first election cycle, so I'm naive. I'm just naive by nature. I'm naive. I run it head first to situations. I am like a battering ram to situations. But it's like, seeing this and seeing how it's already happened before and we're still always behind the 8 ball. It's kind of like we're just kind of insane or lunatics or stupid. I don't know which one.
Well,
or all three.
The way I see it is we have to choose our battles. And in the primary cycle, there were certain races that we chose to target because they were in play. There was races where we had good candidates versus bad candidates. There was races where they were closer than in some other places. So we picked the best fights that we can do. And we pick fights that we can mobilize and grow an organization on. Like the big issues this year have been election integrity, fighting the lockdowns, fighting these vaccine mandates. And these are going to be the issues we're going to have to slam on the hardest in the next term.
But now we have term limits passing, and we're gonna have bad leaders now for more terms. So it's the catch-22.
Well, when you take a few scalps in the primary season and in the general season, that's how things change in the long term. By the way, Stephen asked if he could call in. We don't really have a call-in number, Stephen. I mean, if you want, you can use the contact form at rescuemichigan.com to reach out to us, and maybe you can be a guest on an upcoming show sometime, but I don't know how we can bring you on live if I don't know how to contact you. And I don't want you to put your like private personal contact information into the chat, so don't do that. But yeah, I mean, this is, you know, we have to decide what our most important fights are. And there's actually a technique we use for that. It's we call it the Red Fox 4. And what that is you make a list of all the potential battles that you can engage in, and you grade them on 4 criteria. One of them is, what's the actual policy value at stake here? And, you know, that can be a huge thing, or sometimes they're not, or sometimes, you know, I mean, that's one criterion. The other 3 are, by making the fight, just by making the fight, whether we win or we lose, are we going to grow our organization taking on this battle? And some issues score better than others on these things. And the other 2 questions are, win or lose just by making the fight. Are we helping our friends and allies? And the other question is, are we hurting our enemies and their allies? So, like right now, we're doing immense damage to the Democrats by pointing out and exposing Proposal 3 and showing voters what the Democrats are trying to sneak through on the ballot. And it's having a tremendous effect everywhere. It's affecting the Attorney General race, the Secretary of State race, the governor's race, and probably even the composition of the House and Senate. So what happens if we have a sweep in November and that was seen as the issue that made the difference? It's going to be, number one, a devastating blow to the abortion lobby, because they're the ones that made the whole pitch to the Democrats. Oh, this is what's going to save our butts in November. And if instead this is what destroys them, then that's going to do absolute wreckage to the radical left. That's what they've been pinning their hopes on in this election. I mean, what else have they got? The other thing I've been seeing in the news, they've been saying that the U.S. is really, really trying to get some kind of win in Ukraine before the election, and I'm like, what's that going to do? I don't think many people are voting on Ukraine this election. They're like, oh well, no, if Ukrainians break that dam and cause a lot of civilian casualties, it'll be seen as a big mistake by Russia, and that's going to somehow get the Democrats elected. I mean, I don't see any of that working at all. So, yeah, I don't know, Amber, if you want to respond to any of the chats that are directed at you. That's
I appreciate it. No, it's a battle. Every day I go through, like, you know how Michigan has different seasons. Every day I go through a roller coaster of emotions, and we just hit the live stream at a really bad time.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, I mean, you just have to let politics destroy your soul after a while. Like when I first got involved in politics, which was, you know, like 20 years ago, like I would go to rallies and scream and yell at the government and decry all the crimes of the politicians, and these people got to be brought before a firing squad and blah, blah, blah. And after enough years, you just are like, you know what? It's the same all the time. And you can't let it drive you crazy. I mean, I think probably the peak for me was like the Ron Paul campaigns in 2008 in particular. Is like, if we don't get him elected, the world's going to end. And, you know, life goes on, you know, and you just gotta enjoy the fight. You got to, in fact, that reminds me, I haven't updated my political scalp list in a long time. I've got a list of like politicians whose careers I've destroyed, and I haven't updated it since so that's a fun thing we can do too after the election is over. And I'm hoping to add Whitmer and Benson.
I was gonna say, you know, I have one under my belt at least.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, on Rescue Michigan.
Which one's that?
R.J. Reagan.
Oh yeah. Well, he wasn't really an enemy. He was a.
No. I meant like accidental scalp, I guess.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. Yeah, too bad.
Sorry.
Patty's laughing. On Rumble, Purist says, just watch the entire I didn't know video. Wow, powerful. Even my pro-choice wife is now voting no. There you go, people. There's a testimonial for you right there.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Mary Henman on Rumble wishes you well too, Amber.
Thank you.
So yeah. So yeah, talking about Prop 1 though, here's another thing too. Remember, the Republicans in Lansing put that on us. And so, you know, if you're
100%. We had that rescue when we
if
knew
you're
it was
out,
on the ballot or on the
so
thing.
feel free to not knock on doors for any Republicans this election cycle and fight Prop 1 instead. Because you know what? If they somehow lose the dream, like, hey, well, you know, you made our job harder. We're going to knock on doors for you. But so we did knock on doors to oppose your little job extension proposal that you put out there. So, yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's not necessarily an end of the world. We can still beat them all up over their votes on this too. Maybe some of them out there will get primary challengers.
Do you know what the worst part is everybody's just so ignorant. And so not only are you trying to fight bad people and do the right thing, but you're constantly trying to educate people that don't want to be educated. I'm sorry. It's a really bad night. I'm well, just being honest.
The other thing too, I would say about Proposal 1 is there is another side of that coin too. I mean, I've always said term limits are not a black and white issue. There's good and bad things about term limits. One of the problems with having their very short term limits that we do have is that in any given election, a third of the House isn't eligible for re-election. If they're not running for higher office, then they don't care what the people think at all. And every now and then some very naive person will say to me, oh, well, that just means they can vote their conscience. It's like, yeah, right. No, now they get to vote the lobbyist conscience every single time, which is what most of them, of course, do. But yeah, that will be a problem that we don't have anymore in the House. And that means that they will all be in fear of the next election. And if they get Prop 1 through, it just means that we're going to have to recruit more primary challengers against the rhinos when they do their rhino things. So it's not the end of the world if Prop 1 passes.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
But nonetheless, the fact is this proposal, the Chamber of Commerce wanted this. They were going to spend the millions of dollars to get the signatures to put it on the ballot. And the legislature did that for them, saved them the money.
Right.
So they should be held accountable. Steven says, the liberalism has become such a mental disorder that the left screams and riots choice, but if you choose life, they attack you with feces and pee bottles. Yeah, I mean, they're really losing their mind. And that's, I think, what we're seeing on social media too. Let me show you this Mallory McMorrow tweet again, because it went on and on. Like, check this out. This ad is part of a $5.5 million being spent by anti-abortion groups who will do and say anything to stop Michiganders from voting for this historic constitutional amendment. By the way, didn't Mallory McMorrow, if I recall, she said anything to get rid of Pete Lucido from the state Senate, if I recall. Although I'm sure Pete's a lot happier being an executive. He's the county prosecutor now in Macomb County.
Yeah, he's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pete Lucido's a Trump type. He really is.
Yeah.
I remember I ran into him once. It was before some hearing, and he knew I worked in Washington. He's like, so what's working in Congress like? Because I think he was thinking he might run for Congress or something. I was like, well, I mean, it's weird, man, because on one hand, you're in the big arena, but on the other hand, you can't really do much of anything because you're one of like 435 offices. And, you know, it's all a game for seniority. No one's really in charge, and you can't do anything over the swamp. And he's like, yeah, I guess I see that, you know. And then of course he ran for county prosecutor. He got to be the executive. And I remember, I mean, I've heard so many stories from people that are involved in governments. My dad was on the harbor commission. He's like, oh God, it's so annoying having to deal with other colleagues and you only have one vote and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, they'd all love to be executives, I'm sure. Anyway, so McMorrow just keeps going on and on and on.
Oh my gosh.
Is 100% about pregnancy and has nothing to do with gender identity or treatment. And opponents know damned well that consent is required. Parental consent is required for any medical treatment in Michigan. Lies. Anyway, she goes on and on and on and on about this. She's not happy.
Wow. That's just crazy. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. When it gets into the Constitution that they don't have something identified, I mean, that trumps the definition in the legislation and stuff. So, I mean, I don't think people realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and Mallory McMorrow knows this. She's just.
Oh, yeah. No, she does.
Lying. You know, that's what they're all doing. Whitmer's lying about it. Let's hope at the next debate this Tuesday, folks. Are you going to join us? We're gonna definitely have a debate watch party on Tuesday night.
I am running a debate watch party in Novi. So if you are in the Novi, Oakland County area, join me and let me know, and I'll send you the message.
Well,
But
I
yeah.
don't know. I am committed to live streaming the debate. I don't know if there's some way to live stream the debate at a real debate watch party, but maybe we
Well,
can.
no, I could have. I did the last debate party with my laptop, but at the same time,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Doug Davis
That's
says.
what sucks about being in the county.
Yeah. Doug Davis says a friend had a big no on Prop 3 sign. Someone hung a bag of poop on it. Yeah. I mean, these people are desperate.
Real sophisticated, real smart.
I tell people when they vandalize your yard signs, leave them that way so people see what scum they are.
Right.
But anyway, so I think the time maybe has come to hang up on YouTube, and I want to talk a little bit about this court decision, because that's going to have a big impact on election day operations, and YouTube freaks out whenever we talk about elections in general. So if you are watching on YouTube, go find us on Rumble or on Facebook. It's either facebook.com/Rescue Michigan Coalition, which is not case sensitive, or you can find our channel on Rumble, which is case sensitive. So just search for Rescue Michigan on Rumble and you'll find us there. So Stephen, hope you can join us on Rumble or Facebook, because we are disconnecting our YouTube stream at this point. And you guys on YouTube, if you can't make your way over, you'll have to find the rest of the stream that way. But here we go, disconnecting the YouTube.